My first question is, what should a country like Romania do? So Romania is really close to Russia and Ukraine. So what should we do in order to prepare for a possible escalation of the conflict?
First and foremost, Romania, as all the nations, need to make sure that your own defenses are strong, including air defense, including your ability to command and control, including your ability to know what is flying around, so the right radars, the right sensors. All these things are necessary. First, in order to take a decision, you need to understand what is going on around you. And so therefore, Romania, as many other countries, have to invest more in those sensors and capabilities. And then the right authorities, because what I've seen in the last couple of years is that a number of the nations that were part of the Soviet Union, the Warsaw Pact, have very restrictive laws because after the Soviet Union fell apart, those nations thought this never again that the military can be in a position to be so powerful in peacetime, which is understandable. But the result now is that you need to have war to have certain authorities in a number of these nations. So, for example, in Poland, when they started to talk about protecting this logistic base in Poland, part of the discussion was how do we allow other nations with the right systems, air defense systems, to use part of the Polish airspace. And they needed to change the law to do that. So I think it's a combination of all these things that Romania, in this case, also has to consider.
But there has been talks about a mandatory military service for young people. Could this be a solution?
First, I would say don't necessarily be scared, because there's opportunities as well. I mean, serving in the armed forces is not only scary; it is also a very good experience in terms of working with high-tech systems. It is about in cyber, in space, in the most modern technology you can find in the armed forces as well. So it's not only scary and it's not only dangerous, it's also an opportunity. You learn a lot about leadership, you learn how to work together, that the group is more important than the individual. So all these things are part of our organizations as well. So it's not only to be scary, it is about being prepared. And a lot of people that I talk with who have served in the armed forces, they say it is a very enriching experience that made me a better person.
President Putin is going to replace his Minister of Defense, Mr. Shoigu, and that is one of his closest allies. How should we be looking at this, and what does this mean?
In all the nations around the world, people are replacing ministers, chiefs of defense. So that is in itself not strange. The fact that he has been so long a minister actually is stranger for us in the West than that he's now being fired or replaced. So that in itself, I don't know how to read it. One of the things I know for sure is that Russia has not reached any of its strategic objectives, which they have laid on the table at the start of this conflict. So Putin most likely is not very happy with the progress. But again, replacing people is something that happens in our part of the world as well. And again, he's been a minister for extremely long time.
And maybe you could explain for the young people that are following us, why is the Black Sea so important for Russia and also for NATO?
The Black Sea is important for Russia, and that's why they basically annexed Crimea, because they wanted access to the Black Sea. Of course, without Crimea, that was much more difficult. For a long time, they had their base there and were able to use it, but that wasn't enough. So the Black Sea is, of course, a very important part for their southern border in terms of getting access to the maritime. And then through the Bosporus Straits or the Turkish Straits, you get into the Mediterranean Sea. So for them, that is, of course, for that reason, of strategic importance. And of course, on top of the military, it is also in terms of exports of their grain, for example, it is also important, the Black Sea.